That right there is one of the reasons why I like to get my stump as low as possible. And I have to get that log up over the top of that thing. And, you know, if I had an extra 3 or 4 inches, it'd actually make a difference now, wouldn't it? Now, the other thing is the hinge starts right there. If I rotate my cut a little bit where that's 60 and I'm down there, I've done that when I can. This is what I probably should have, and that also helps the log get up over the stump. You know, just imagine that face cut, rotate a little bit when I can. Probably should have on that one. I don't know why I didn't. I got a few down in there. That ash tree is actually really nice, but I'm going to wait until I put the winch on the tractor to pull those up and out. And with the International, I'll probably pull all 3 in one hitch. And I need to do one tree today in order to feel like I've accomplished something. And that's an easy one right there. Going uphill a little bit, but no big deal. And that's an ugly tree right there. And see how it kind of hooks to the back? I guess theoretically you could make it go either direction. And but I've got a nice hole for it to put it up there if I can cut it to where it'll do that and not come back and knock me over. Because see, when it falls, it's going to hit that bank right there. And then it's going to hit the tree up there. Let's say I drop it in that hole. And that's when things get a little dicey. You just don't know what it's going to do when it falls uphill and hits stuff like that. So, or I could wedge it over like I've been doing before and send it down in there. But I'd have to clear out some of those trees first. It's got quite the lean. It's a goofy looking tree. You know, and if you look at it from this angle, a little bit of lean that way. You know, I could set it right down there, I suppose. That would be a trick, but then I'd probably hit that top. So I don't want to do that. I think what I'm going to do is see if I can wedge it up here, drop it right in that open area right there, and then I can hook onto it pretty easy. And that'll be today's tree, the Happy Thanksgiving tree. And I'll make this a short video, but I've got a lot to be thankful for sure. You know, I think first and foremost, having the health at my age to be able to play this game, that is something to be very thankful for. It's not about the toys, you know, it's not about the money. It's about the people in your world and your health and, you know, things like that. There's one right down there I'm going to get tomorrow, next day. But I also want to say thank you to the folks who follow my channel, give me support and encouragement. And one fellow in particular, Bob. Now, I was down there. I've got a video kind of in the works, but he and I have, you know, spent a fair amount of time living the saw adventure, and his world's changing a little bit, but that's for him to talk about. And we continue on. Boy, look at that stump. That was a really strange tree, and I did not get video of it. And the reason I cut the stump off, I thought it had taps in it, but it didn't. But the other reason why I cut it off, if you see that split, pretty much split right in half. And even though I had bore cut the middle, that right there was a really strong hinge. And plus it had a very, very heavy, it had a very heavy lean to that side, so it did a kind of a funny twist and fall. Predictable, I suppose. I left a fair amount of hinge here, and I actually bore cut from the back, because I sure as heck didn't want to get in the way where that thing might want to fall. I just didn't trust the tree, and I guess it didn't disappoint, did it? But one of the things I wanted to mention is I like that heavy angle on my face cut. But why can't you rotate that? On a situation like this, why can't I take that point and take the hinge and rotate it some? So maybe I'm 60 degrees here, a little more down there. And when I have an open area like that to work with, I try to do that. But you know, some of it just depends on where my back is. It's a lot easier for me to cut down with a heavy saw than to actually come around and rotate up, you know, a Humboldt style. Although I do it. I mean, this one here I did a little bit, but I could easily have put another 10-15 degrees on that and then rotated the top cut there some. And you know, the benefit of doing that is, yeah, you lose a little bit less there, but I don't lose much anyway. Usually that's more in the root flare. So yeah, I lose some, but not as much as you might think. But I'll tell you what you gain if I rotate my cut a little bit when I can, is speed. Because that's a hard cut to make on a saw. You know, you grind through that thing unless you have a chain that's ground to handle that, you know, with the grain type cut. So if I rotate it, if I can, what happens is now I have more of a across the grain type cut, and that tends to make it a little bit easier to cut, a little bit better speed. I might get a little more productivity on a day if I can make them all that way. And sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't. See, I did that on those trees. We'll see that when I get down in there, is I had rotated it about 10 degrees. So I had a little more angle on my, because I had the room to do it. But yeah, see how that split? And I cut it to where I thought the split ended, and I think I did get it. But that's lost a couple of feet of tree. What I gained was moving a tree to where I could get to it with a tractor real easy. What I lost is 3 or 4 foot of wood. You know, I don't know. You win some, you lose some. This one I lost. But it did go down safely, and it did go down where I wanted it to be, but at a cost. So anyway, I'm going to run the 562 today. This saw right here has just been a wonderful addition to the channel, but also my saw fleet. It really has. And it's big and heavy and loud, and you know, sometimes it's awkward, and sometimes I can't get as much tree as I want. But it doesn't really matter. I just like it. So I forgive it all its sins because I just happen to like the saw. And sometimes it's not about the numbers and quantifying this, that, or anything else. Sometimes it just simply boils down to what do you like. So I've got 2 saws here today, of which I'm only going to use one. One is the ultimate practical saw for me because it's lightweight and has just enough power and just enough bar. And it looks pretty. And I built it. So that puts it way up on the top of the list in terms of what I want to run. I really was surprised. I did those trees down there with the 562. It was getting dark. And I was very surprised that it could pull that bar, which is why I want to run it today. So you don't have to listen to me. You can listen to it do its work. So the 562 Hilltop Saw Shop build has, I don't know, tweaks. You can go back in the videos. That one there's got a lot of time on it. I think it's a 2014 saw. I don't know when I built that one. I built a couple of them on the channel. And then there's this one right here, which weighs 26 pounds. So I guess neither one of them are the perfect saw if you were to go by the typical, you know, online expertise. That one doesn't have enough displacement and it's an auto-tune. And that one weighs 26 freaking pounds and it's made in China. But they both work for me and I enjoy them both. And I like them both. And that's more important than their specs and numbers and speed and all that other stuff, you know. And that's really what it boils down to. When you get right to it, is doing work like this, enjoying doing it, being able to get it done, keep your health. Boy, I wonder if that's the one I should take. Look at that. Plenty of place to put it down. Big, heavy 8-foot right there. That's a good log. That would sure test that little saw. Yeah, I better just stick with the plan. But, so that's what we're going to do. And I may try to rotate the cut some, although I don't think I can on this one. Just simply because it's uphill. No, I really can't, can I? I pretty much have to do what I normally do. So, anyway, let me get to it. But I do want to shout out to Tinman Saws, you know, his channel. I really enjoy him. And he's doing a lot of the same kind of things that I like to do. So there's a little jealousy involved, you know. He's getting to work on those old cool Huskies, and I just haven't had time to do it. I'll get back there sometime. But like the 200's just an awesome series, you know. I went off into the weeds with the auto-tunes and the Chinese saws. And, you know, I don't regret it. I had fun. But as I sort of hunt for direction as time goes on, I'm going to go back to the 562s for a little bit and maybe a 572. I have one of those in the works. And the Chinese saws, these from Husqvarna, the quality is actually getting to the point where they got to be, you know, considered as a legitimate saw for you know, certain classes of work, certainly for a farmer, if you got the skills to tweak them and make them work. I've always said that. I want to set the expectation level. You can't just pull them out of the box and expect them to run like one of those, you know, in terms of the bits and pieces and details. But they sure run good enough if you're willing to spend the time. In my case, on that saw there, I did the muffler mod, but I had to replace the muffler bolts and a few other things, you know. Had to replace the piston, although I've heard that's not a problem anymore. And I'd like it to oil better. I put a different decomp on it with a bigger hole. That made it easier for me to start, but little details like that. That's not outside the typical skill set of a typical farmer. So I'd say it's a legitimate saw for people like me, you know. If I'm not a production guy, I don't have to lug it around all day, you know, maybe a tree service type. That's a legitimate saw for that. That thing has done a lot of work. It's earned its keep for sure in my place, you know, as has that one. So I guess the point I'm trying to get to is there's a lot of different saws and configurations that work just fine for people. And like what Tinman's doing with the 200 series, and I've done with the 562s, and others have done with these Chinese saws. At the end of the day, you know, they get the work done and they put a smile on your face. Isn't that the definition of a good saw, right? And even though these are diametrically opposed, right? Both of those are great saws for me. I enjoy the heck out of both of them. And which is something to be thankful for. Which brings up the last point about my channel. I've said for a whole bunch of years and a whole bunch of times, I don't consider myself an expert. I really, truly don't. There's really educated experts out there on the subject matter, of which I am not. And the purpose of my channel has always been to sort of share the experience, originally for my kids and grandkids, but now that I have a following for you folks as well, I'm very thankful that you guys spend the time. But really what it's about is people. It's not about the saws, you know. It's about just sharing experience with people. Not trying to tell you what to do, just show what we do. Not trying to be an expert, you know, saying this is the right way or the only way. This is just what we do. We're sharing life, you know, sharing it on camera. You guys share it with me with the comments, watching the videos. And that's really what it's about, more than being right or being perfect or having the numbers all add up to make something better than something else, you know. What does that really mean? You know, to me it means that right there. And being out here, talking to you guys, and having the health to actually enjoy this ride we have called life. I'm just truly grateful for all those things, you know, associated. You, my family, my friends, health, a couple of goofy saws that I really enjoy because I tweaked on them and they're just fun, you know, all that stuff. Well, maybe I better take a tree down, quit the yapping going on, let you guys get back to your family and Thanksgiving dinner. But happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and thank you so much. That tree right there is a scary, scary tree. I'm going to take it down, but it's scary because it has a bunch of cracks that go all the way through it, up and down. So I don't know whether it's going to barber chair out. What's it going to do? I have no idea. So this is a tree that would bother me, but I've got to get it down anyway, so I might as well take it today. Yeah, that tree is hollow, totally hollow. So I am going to bore cut it again, but that's totally hollow, that tree. So we'll see what it does. I'm going to leave the camera right where it is. Alright, that tree wants to go backwards. Let's see if we can wedge it over and not get killed. Alright, this is actually going to be a good one. Now I could probably take a little out of that hinge, make it go over now, but that's always a bad idea. But if you look at it, we got it going. We moved that top probably 8-10 feet, and you can see the dangerous spot of that tree is actually now completely cut through. I did not allow that to go on its own. And if you look really carefully, you can see how that hinge is beginning to break down into the stump because I've left that really high wood. I call that my oh shit cut, excuse my language, where I leave a little bit of high wood there. And in this case here, because I saw it was really hollow on the inside, I went and cut even deeper further down the tree in order to get more high wood, because this is the kind of thing that makes me nervous. Both is going uphill, and I don't want it to split up into the tree and barber chair. I want it to split down into the stump and then bend over and break. So let's see if I can hammer it over. That freaking hinge is probably the strongest part of that whole tree. It's going. Look at that thing bounce. So I don't know how much of that tree is any good, but at least we got it down safely, and I got something to drag up until the landing. Yeah, there just isn't a lot of tree there. And yet again, knowing that, is I left a little more hinge, but by having the high wood there, it broke down into the stump instead of up into the tree. Not that it really matters on this tree. My hunch is I'm going to have to cut it all the way up to right there, and then the rest of it might be a good tree. But yeah, these are the ones that make me nervous. And the reason I could tell that I had that split forming on the tree right there, you see it? So when I did my bore cut, I wanted to make sure that I had that completely cut. So it didn't have a chance of taking that split and getting the leverage from the tree falling over or a hinge to make it propagate up the tree, possibly coming back and hitting me. And again, I'm not an expert. I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm just telling you why I did that goofy cut the way I did. And in this situation here, it worked. So it's an action speaks louder than words concept for me. But like I said, if you can see how that split is all the way up the tree, I was looking at that. My hunch, I'm not going to get a saw log until I get past that spot up there. But anyway, let me cut the top of it out. Might be a log in there somewhere. So I'm just going to cut this off to the side, I guess.